Imagine being just 13 years old, having hundreds of thoughts, dreams, questions, fears, but feeling that no one, literally no one, truly understands you. So what do? Well, you decide to tell everything to your diary.
And that very diary would one day become one of the most important books ever written. Today we're not just reading a chapter, we are stepping inside the thoughts of a young girl whose words continue to inspire millions around the world. Welcome to the Diary of Anne Frank.
All right, let's dive straight into this incredibly intimate first moment. Anne writes, "To enhance the image of this long-awaited friend in my imagination, I don't want to jot down the facts in this diary the way most people would do, but I want the diary to be my friend, and I'm going to call this friend Kitty. Since no one would understand a word of my stories to Kitty if I were to plunge right in, I'd better provide a brief sketch of my life, much as I dislike doing so." Notice how Anne literally refuses to treat this as just a dry, boring notebook. She feels this profound isolation, right? A deep craving for a true confidant. So she brings the diary to life.
Actually, think about that word she uses there, enhance. To enhance the image means to intensify it, or further improve the mental picture of something. And isn't just writing. She is actively using her imagination to build a living, breathing companion out of paper and ink. Why? Because she desperately needs a safe space to be completely, unapologetically herself.
Okay, let's lock in a quick memory trick for your board exams. If you get a question on why she named it Kitty and gave a life sketch, just remember the 3 C's: creation, confidant, and context. Basically, she created Kitty to be a true confidant, and she provided a brief life sketch to give context. Master those 3 C's, and you've absolutely got full marks on that question.
Let's step into the psychology of this for a second. Think about it with deep empathy. Back in 1942, Anne is processing intense loneliness by writing in a hidden diary. And today? Well, teenagers do the exact same thing when they write in private journals, or create private digital stories, or seek out that one close friend who just listens without judging. Anne's historical isolation completely mirrors the timeless modern teenage desire for genuine connection. I mean, she is just incredibly relatable.
So take a moment to really think about that. Have you ever felt entirely misunderstood? Like you're surrounded by people yet feeling completely alone, needing a safe, private space to just be yourself. That heavy feeling right there, that is exactly what Anne was carrying. Now, after establishing this really deep bond with Kitty and filling in some background about her family and her early life, Anne takes us straight into her everyday reality. Listen to her entry from Saturday, 20 June, 1942. "Dearest Kitty, our entire class is quaking in its boots. The reason, of course, is the forthcoming meeting in which the teachers decide who move up to the next form and who will be kept back. Half the class is making bets. Instantly, the whole atmosphere shifts from quiet reflection to a tense, chaotic classroom. You can practically hear the nervous whispers and the scraping of chairs." Anne says the class is quaking in its boots. This basically means trembling with fear, anxiety, or apprehension about an upcoming event. Picture the sweaty palms. Picture the 2 boys she mentioned, CN and Jock, furiously betting their entire holiday savings out of sheer panic. Just going, "You're gonna pass. No, I'm not," over and over again. It is the absolute ultimate promotion day anxiety.
Let's grab the exam points here. You want to focus on the date, June 20, 1942, and the core event, which is the class anxiety about promotions. But honestly, most importantly, look at Anne's personality here. She shows incredible maturity and humor. Despite the total panic around her and her own outbursts trying to calm those betting boys down, she just calmly notes that teachers are the most unpredictable creatures on earth. She totally gets that panicking won't change the outcome.
Now let's build a bridge right to your own life. In 1942, Anne is stressing over the teachers' meeting. Today, that is exactly the feeling of anxiously waiting for your final CBSE board exam results. I mean, the stakes feel like life or death, the betting, the pacing, the endless debates with friends. It honestly hasn't changed a bit in over 80 years. So I just have to ask you, between us, think about your own school. Do you agree with Anne that teachers are the most unpredictable creatures on earth? I am sure a few faces just popped right into your mind.
And, well, speaking of unpredictable teachers, Anne introduces us to her greatest school conflict. Listen to this. "I get along pretty well with all my teachers. Mr. Keesing, the old fogey who teaches maths, was annoyed with me for ages because I talked so much. After several warnings, he assigned me extra homework, an essay on the subject, a chatterbox.
You could feel the tension building, right? And this naturally bright and talkative girl is on a total collision course with strict, uncompromising authority.
She actually calls Mr. Keesing an old fogey. An old fogey is an older person who is excessively old-fashioned, strict or conservative. Visualize this scene with me, the intimidating, glaring presence of Mr. Keesing at the front of the classroom, pointing a piece of chalk at Anne, punishing her simply for expressing herself, and assigning an essay titled A Chatterbox. What a wonderfully ironic punishment.
For your exams, you've got to remember this crucial contrast. Anne is highly confident in her overall academics. She knows she'll pass. Her only real weakness is maths. And it's exactly the maths teacher, Mr. Keesing, who hands down this highly ironic chatterbox punishment. This sets the absolute perfect stage for Anne to prove her intelligence.
Let's do a quick character analysis based on this clash. On one side, we have Mr. Keesing, who demands silent, absolute obedience. And on the other side, Anne Frank, who genuinely believes talking is a fundamental student trait. But look at Anne's maturity here. She doesn't have a meltdown. She just thinks, what can you write about that? I'd worry about that later. She calmly jots down the title, tucks it right into her bag, and tries to keep quiet. That shows incredible self-awareness and unshakable confidence.
So put yourself right there at her desk. How would you have reacted if the strictest teacher in school singled you out and gave you extra homework simply for talking too much? Would you have panicked, maybe argued back, or calmly tucked it into your bag like Anne did?
Now skip ahead to the beautiful resolution. Instead of crying, Anne actually fights back with her pen. Through a series of 3 witty essays, a chatterbox, an incorrigible chatterbox, and finally, quack, 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 ultimately culminating in this really clever poem about the mother duck and father swan, Anne completely turns the tables. She writes, "Since then, I've been allowed to talk and haven't been assigned any extra homework. On the contrary, Mr. Keesing's always making jokes these days. It is just a massive, triumphant victory." Look at that phrase, "on the contrary." It literally means the complete opposite of what is expected. Mr. Keesing didn't just stop punishing her, he fundamentally changed. He went from being this strict enforcer of silence to a joke-making teacher who fully respected her voice. Anne's brilliant writing literally changed her reality.
All right, here is your final set of board exam points. The resolution comes entirely from Anne's creative self-expression. The poem sparked Keesing's complete transformation. Remember this, she didn't win by yelling or rebelling. She won the right to talk by using her intelligence, her humor, and her pen.
Look at the amazing psychological arc we've just traveled. At the very beginning of the text, we saw an Anne who felt isolated, unheard, basically forced to create an imaginary friend named Kitty just to survive her loneliness. But by the end of this entry, we see an Anne who is absolutely thriving, using her confident voice and irrepressible humor to conquer authoritarian strictness in the real world. Her resilience is just breathtaking.
Anne Frank used her diary to find her voice in a world that tried to silence her. Her words survived the darkest of times to tell her incredible story to millions. And so as we close this diary today, I leave you with this one lingering question. You have a voice just as powerful. So what story will your voice tell the world?